Alright, hit the button. Yeah, I did it. All by myself. Anyway, Professor Anton has made a free will video. Yeah, it's not terrible. I mean, it's, you have to read between the lines kind of thing. And, hear between them. So it's hard to react to exactly what he's saying because he doesn't say it entirely directly. I mean, well, I'll play some of his video at the end of it anyway, and you'll see what I mean. I mean, he says things that are directly contradictory, and they only have, like, some sort of metaphorical value, like in some sort of, perversion of reality. And so I don't see any use in that, in attempting to describe the literal truth, just for the sake of describing it. Let's just talk about the truth, not about words that make people go all wacky. Because, yeah, we could put a list of words together where people will over-emote, like Holocaust, or some other kind of word. They'll put that in a whole different category than other words like harm or threat or suffering even, And so, yeah, that just leads to a kind of confusion, conflation of what you're trying to accomplish, which is to describe in a way that my description is the same as, my description is not going to get destroyed when it gets reinterpreted, when the words are reinterpreted. Which reminds me, somebody just put up a Russian, subtitle video, one of my videos, and they don't mind doing more of them, but, it'd be better if they had a transcript in English of some of my videos, obviously. And it probably would be a good idea, so if anybody's got, like, insane free time and actually knows how to type or something, and they want to transcribe some videos, yeah, that'd be a good idea. I just don't have the time, and I'm functionally illiterate, but I really should do a few just to prove that I'll put in the effort too. Anyway, but they always do that. Oh, Gary, could you select some of your best videos? Oh man, I can't figure out what videos are good or bad. I mean, I can, but they're all good to me. Well, not all good, but I know which ones aren't good. It's hard to tell which ones are really good from the ones that are good. I mean, the ones I can tell which ones are no good. Let me just put it that way. Not good enough. Alright. Anyway, moving on. So, what I wrote down was not much while I was watching this video, but that's partly because I've heard what he's saying before. I know what he's trying to do in a way, I think. He's trying to put a little bit of an upbeat spin, on the truth. And that's what it is. Because he basically concedes a lot of the truths. He just kind of sloughs over them. Oh, well, okay, let's just say, all right, it's 4 billion years of evolution. So what? All right, yes, consumption, reproduction. Okay, a bunch of dumb animals just eating each other. Okay. And let's move on to the important part, which is, oh, but now we're doing something, magnificent and profound and meaningful. And so it's all okay. And you really can't ignore where we came from, because that origin defines us, and it even taints everything great we do now, because we can sort of see that people aren't doing it for good reasons. It's like people get elected president and they really don't give a fuck, okay, about the future. They're not thinking about the welfare of the human race. When they're sitting there in that little Oval Office, the welfare of the human race, it isn't written on the wall somewhere. The welfare of the human race, or the welfare of all sentient kind on planet Earth. That's really not where their head is. Alright? Their head is, I'm president, I kick ass, I am so fucking cool, my dick is bigger than everybody's. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're on a fucking ego trip. And that's the tragic truth of us. All this high-minded bullshit, all these words we have like love and this and that, we know it's not about some kind of perfect emotion. We know it's about usually some sort of selfish emotion. It's about ego and bullshit. Who's going to win the Super Bowl, right? The New York Jetsters or the, whatever, the Iowa balls. I mean, the fact that human beings would waste their time waiting for the answer to that question, as if that answer could mean anything. Come on, it's stupid. And that's the truth of it. And you're only going to get to that truth if you're honest about what's happening inside of our heads. You're not going to know the truth of the irrelevant, the preposterous, nonsensical waste of so much of how we are functioning as machines, as human beings, how inefficiently we're interacting with each other in the interest of the human race or sentient life on Earth. We're falling so short, and we're falling short because we don't understand what we are. We don't see the trivial, silly mechanisms that are propelling us into our interactions, and that's just so critical. And you're just, you're the guy just kind of, let's put some soap on the glass so we don't see what we don't want to see. And that's bullshit. Anyway, so yeah, he talks about this whole evolution of culture and things, and the fact that we're doing something a little distinct in the sense that we possess perspective, and sort of, yeah, and that's sort of what I've argued, though, but that perspective is so tainted by our personal interest. And the real game is this broader game where you recognize that, yeah, okay, I'm just one feeling thing. There's 7 billion other feeling humans. There's trillions other feeling animals. So this is what it's all about. It's not about, my brain shouldn't be working just for this biology. It should be working for all sentience. And that's a different efficiency question in terms of what I'm going to do if I'm working for one or I'm working for all. You function differently by necessity. All right, so I'm not going to be able to paraphrase his point with what I wrote down. Well, what I wrote down was react to a world that doesn't exist yet. And that's the magic of our brain, our modeling brain. Is that we can model the present, but we can also run the model into the future. And we can see possibilities that exist in the future. And we can react to it. We can sit there and take what exists. We can run it logically into the future. We can see some horror happen, some danger. Oh, I can see the Tyrannosaurus come out of the trees and chomp, chomp, chomp and eat my kids. Or some other kind of thing. We can see threats that exist in the future. And we can react now to those threats. And so we can go, we can prevent the threats way in advance. We can prevent the thing from happening. We can basically rerun history. We can go back in time in a strange kind of way, in that we jump ahead, put ourselves in a future circumstance, react to it, say, ooh, this sucks, and now we can go back to now, which is actually the past from there, and prevent that future. And so that's sort of yeah, that's cool. Very cool. But he implies that we're the only ones doing that. No, I think a lot of animals are doing the same kind of thing. In a lot of ways. I think they are spending some time imagining, and they're also spending their brain is spending time recognizing the signals, and they can put 2 and 2 together. Farmer Joe has a, cattle prod in his hand. Ooh, that's probably not good. I'm going to hide behind a tree. Anyway. I also wrote down live as if in or facing a future circumstance. Yeah, so that's basically what I just said. That, yeah, we can live ahead of time in the future. Now. Yeah, pretty cool. But I don't know if that's relevant to anything. All right, so I also wrote down room for them. Room for them. Who the hell knows? Reduce them to, what the hell? Accurate, honest description. Yeah, so it's just this idea that he doesn't like this reductionist word, but the point is you really have to be honest about what's going on here. I mean, honest description is what we're after, doing philosophy. And if the philosophers are afraid to do it, because, ooh, the word might get out that, sports is bullshit, or, all the other crap that's out there, all the iconology, that celebrity is nonsense, that, all the bullshit might get revealed, and it's like somehow, even the philosophers can't even say the truth because regular people might hear it, and they'll get all, oh, you mean I'm an asshole? Yeah, And they don't, that horror, that tragedy. Oh yeah, we have to do whatever we can to stop that from happening. Yeah, I was asleep, but it didn't work out. So that's my alarm to get to work. Oh, annoying. Whatever, shut up, you fucker. Ugh. It's only kind of an alarm that'll wake me up, though. It's nice and loud, the old-fashioned wind-up kind. I mean, all these new modern alarms, you just go beep, 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 and you're just kind of saying, oh, look, birds tweeting. Yeah. And, yeah, it doesn't really work. That's pretty obnoxious, so it works. Yeah, this neuralgia pain in my head, so didn't sleep well. The day begins. Anyway, oh no, not another one. Oh, anyway, all right. Yeah. So I mean, we really have to do this. You know, we have to do I have to be honest about this. We can't keep drawing little pictures and saying the picture is the truth. Illusions are not the truth. Delusions are not the truth. They're pictures. Okay, they're maybe more attractive pictures, but they're just not the truth. And we can be more literal. It's not like, you know, these aren't truths we can't describe, like, you know, tiny particle physics. You know, we just don't have enough information to make the description yet. These are truths we can describe. We can describe how we function. We can describe the programming and the seepage of culture into our identity, and how we are controlled by the people we have known, and how we are controlled, period. How we are just a product of being controlled by things like snow and poop and, and pimples, and, you know, just go down the list of all the things that you find obnoxious or attractive, and you are controlled by them. All right, you don't make yourself vulnerable. They create the vulnerability in you. I mean, the programming makes you vulnerable. Let's put it that way. All right. So anyway, yeah, I mean, this again, I wasn't specific enough, but there are some points here about the whole idea that this is a perception, how we are perceiving what is going on here. You know, we keep talking about, well, this bottle is mostly empty space, and, you know, this bottle. But well, I did want to talk about that because, you know, I did use that metaphor to the bottle thing. And the idea that you can connect two things, like we can actually connect ourselves to a sun, you know, billions and billions and billions of light years away, because we have a sun here. And once we understand how it works, how it functions, how it turns hydrogen into helium, now that fact can be extended to all those other suns and combined, and now can classify them, and even though we never even saw one of them. I mean, you know, just if we knew about the existence theoretically, we can already know something about it, and we can put it in a class, and all of a sudden now it is part of our world. You know, even though it's billions and billions of light years away, or at least billions. It can't be like billions and billions. That would be silly. Anyway, it could be millions of millions. No, it can be thousands of millions. Well, anyway. See, again, you know, sometimes it's important to get it right, sometimes it isn't. In this case, it's not really important. You know, but in other cases, it's really important to be really careful how you use words, because what you're saying is really the difference between black and white. It really is. You know, this little bit of fudge turns it, you know, just switches it on or switches it off, puts it in a different category, puts it in the you're not what you think you are category, or the, oh yeah, you can pretend that you're, you know, God's child. I mean, these are different categories reality is going to get thrown in based on how you talk about it.
So I want to make sure that I'm well informed before I start setting myself to goals. Well, no, that's already a goal, and that's producing information.
All right, well, see, there, goal was an important word. Like, somehow we design these goals, and that's the real flaw here, is that goals are set up by our psychology, our biology, and our conditioning, and the goals usually relate to an ego adventure. Okay, I'd argue that President Obama's on an ego adventure. Okay, and the only goal he has is to win Okay, is to get his portrait on the wall and everybody not to throw rocks at it or something. So not to fail, I guess is the thing. To gain some sort of perception that he did an honorable, decent, competent job, or whatever the description would be. And that job description just gets defined by this stupid sell-out politics of special interest. So he just balances special interest, and in the meantime, part of the special interest balance is, well, that guy, after I'm president, that company will pay me $1 million to give speeches over in France, so yeah, I'll help them out. That kind of bullshit's going on. The Good Boy Network, they got him elected, will say, look, we got you elected, fucker, so payback time. Help us out here. And those become the equations. And the equation's nothing about this goal that's supposed to exist, like, I'll do whatever's in the best interest of all sentient life on on planet Earth. That's not the goal. So I'm just saying most of the goals people have are short-term and personal, and even though they can be marching that road of some kind of higher-minded goal, most of the time they're only doing that because that's how they get their short interest goal satisfied. They've been elected leader, so they can't lead people into the sewer directly. But they can do it in some sort of spiral fashion where people don't know that's where they're being led, that they're being fleeced, that they're being totally and completely ripped off.
People realize that organismal goal seeking, and I mean, so there's the inorganic, the organic, and then there's culture. At the very level of life itself, information starts to occur at indexical levels. By the time you get to humans, you have indexical, iconic, and symbolic levels, and those kinds of information...
call symbolic and to iconic, call them levels is kind of, again, that's sort of a distortion. Isn't that not accurate? That's not really a great way to put it. Because it's not like they're on different levels, like you're going up a staircase or something. They're different in kind, all right? And some of them are worth absolutely nothing. I mean, most of the information you gain from culture is worth absolutely nothing. It's, in fact, a huge, gigantic distraction. It just creates biases and bigotries and senses of importance. It just stimulates all the rah-rah team, colors kind of crap that is completely destructive to any kind of intelligent perception of the world. So, to call that a level, that level would be in the basement.
They give us that sense of agency and that sense of choice. And it's partly because matter energy is driven along from the past, whereas choice...
Well, look, the sense of choice, that's always a tricky thing, too, because it might just be the propaganda of choice. This whole choice thing it's not really an issue. We're conscious in the moment. The moment always seems like anything could happen because there's so much in it. There's so much going on. So it always has this appearance of randomness or not even randomness. How to put it into words? But I'm just saying that experience is part of the organic more than anything else. Isn't that experience kind of a crude experience? It's an experience of ignorance, not an experience of knowledge. The more knowledgeable you become, the more aware you become of the fact that TVs don't fly. There's no voodoo. I can walk out in the dark. There's not a boogeyman behind the tree. You learn how to navigate the dark, for example, or other things where the ignorant individual will imagine things that are impossible. The intelligent individual imagines things that are possible, not impossible. So their vision is so much clearer. So they would lack a great deal of that idea of freedom would be erased because surprise or some other kind of thing that's associated with what might be called a free thing isn't going to happen to them as easily.
It has to do with the running ahead of oneself by way of information. See, the information.
Yeah, but that's what we need to do. We need to be ahead of ourselves. That's how we can see ourselves. I mean, we need to get to some other perspective that isn't interior, because our interior perspective is pretty much garbage. Corey, come on. All right? It's completely subjective and personal and emotive and mechanistic, where that perspective from somewhere else has the knowledge, the intellect. That's the one that has the real capacity to do something meaningful, something of merit. And so we should get ahead of ourselves and up on the hill and actually look down at ourselves and just try to figure out whether I can make a huge distinction between me and the ant.
Allows me to have representative values that I can navigate toward goals. I mean, organisms, they thrive upon information, and that's how they...
Yeah. Well, see, we navigating towards goals is no problem because the goals are built into our nature, built into our selfish nature. My goal is to feel good and not feel bad. I have a psychology that tells me what makes me feel good or what makes me feel bad, what I like to eat, what I don't like to eat, what smells good, what doesn't smell good, and it's completely personal to myself, and that creates a goal for me in the world. But it's a stupid goal. It's a narrow, small, and in a system of many, it's just completely useless. The real goal is how can we arrange the little moving bits, with their own little needs, and how can we arrange them so the maximum interaction possibilities take place, where the most chemistry is allowed to combine. It's almost like mixing. You throw some things into a bucket, and they're all marked positive and negative, and there's a way to arrange them where you get the maximum connections between each other. And then if they're arranged another way, the least will connect. If that's the value we're judging, like how many connect as being the good and how many don't connect is bad. And it's the same thing in this system. We can figure out ways to organize ourselves and ways to defeat the bullshit that just gets in the way of our efficiency, the sloppiness in which we live our lives. Get the waste out of this thing. And the only way we can do that is to understand how wasteful we are as individual parts and how preposterously wasteful we are when you throw those individual little machines, those little wind-up toys, you throw them in a box, trapped together, and they just keep bouncing into each other and knocking each other's parts off. We're not doing anything constructive as a group because we're not paying attention to the dynamic and such.
No kind of negative entropy. I mean, information is a negative entropy in that it structures information inside the organism in certain ways, and it creates disorder around the organism. Right? It increases the entropy in the open systems environment. But as an open system, we can...
Yeah, I just don't see the point of this. Okay, because you can't use something as like entropy as a metaphor, in my opinion, because it's not about the bits. The bits are all there. The pieces are there. It's how we're arranging the information and what information we're considering important and unimportant. That's really important here. So it's really not so much the movement. It's that you're taking the best of the movement and moving it into a knot or steering it or manipulating it in some other way. So it's the same amount of energy. It's the same amount of information, and even I just think it's an impossible metaphor because there's just too many ways you can say this changes the whole scenario by just opening it up to the idea of, does intelligence allow you to ask more questions? And I would argue that it does. So if you can ask more questions, then you have to have more answers, and that's sort of what intelligence does. Also, it's very good at saying, well, I have one answer for 9,000 questions, okay, but it's a really good answer. And some of the really good answers are, you evolved. You're the product of 4 billion years of evolution. You're the product of a gladiator competition. You're the next son in a gladiator competition that's been going on for millions of years, and the winner never gets a prize. It's just about beating the other guy, and that's all you are. You're the best. Your heritage is that your kind was the best at just beating the other guy. Period. Not being better, not being good, just beating the other guy.
Continuously export our entropy in order to continue various forms of goal seeking and development. Um,
Yeah, okay, again, goal seeking. I mean, that's just a funny way of saying goal defining, right? I mean, are you talking about seeking the satisfaction of a goal, or are you talking about the design of a goal? And that's where I'm arguing here, is that's why we need to be explicit. Because if you're going to define the right goal, okay, you have to have that clear vision. You have to really understand what it is we are, what's of value. And if you don't get those things right, your goal you define is going to be garbage. It's going to be way off target. Because, yeah, your goal is going to say something like, well, let's make a Super Bowl arena 3 times the size and put 15 roofs on it and have, 14 million, air conditioners. So, I mean, it just gets stupid because your goal is wrong. You've valued the wrong thing. You can't know what it is that this is if you don't get literal about describing it.
There is such a difference between constraints and the kinds of constraints and the way that constraints enable decision making and choice within open systems that deal with information. It's very different than
enable decision making and choices. Again, what is the controlling theme, you could say? What are controlling ideas? What is controlling knowledge? All right? I mean, you can't concede the non-existence of this real true capacity to choose. Let's deal with the things that are obliging the choice. And let's understand that our brain basically functions as a logical device. Its usefulness in the environment was built on the fact that it got it right. I've said this before, that it didn't think trees could run. It didn't think the ground turned upside down. It didn't model the world wrong. It modeled the world right. And that's what our brain is built to do, is to get it right, not to get it wrong. So that's a good. So we have one thing good to work with here, is that the brain wants to be, the brain is built to be reasonable, rational, logical.
Physical closed systems that really, again, only deal with matter and energy. I would like to see, or I would want to, how do I say it?
All right, when he says only deal with matter and energy, he's basically pointing out that, I could write a word on a piece of paper, and the word has a physical, material reality. But as a representation, as putting into a category, as putting a symbolic representation. So if I write the word sun, it has a physical reality, which is just letters. And then it's converted, through me absorbing that word into, a representation that has nothing to do with the reality. It's a representation in a new model inside our heads. And so it doesn't really have the same kind of substantive reality as even the written word. Because now it's a concept, and it's an arrangement of neurons, but it's an arrangement that's not explicit. It doesn't accurately represent the thing. It's metaphorically representing it. It's symbolically representing it. So there's a difference between this material reality and the symbolism we use to convey intellectual conceptions to each other, and that doesn't have a material reality, really. It's a secret code between, brains. This is the code brains use. That might be the easiest way just to say it. Brain code.
I think there's a challenge for anyone who's going to try to reduce the human experience of agency and of free will, of all those kinds of things. If you're going to try to say that they're not part of human experience because there's no room for them, I guess.
Yeah, well, again, they're not. They're only part of human experience is the way God is part of human experience, in some sort of really corrosive way, as in a way that denies what's really going on. And it's a delusion, an illusion. And these are not constructive or productive things. These are things very destructive to the fundamental structure. The structure can't have these kinds of huge flaws in them if we're going to build this this thing, this thing called the truth in our heads.
I'm skeptical of a kind of reduction toward everything being nothing but energy matter. And we can be energy matter.
Well, I don't think that's really the argument. So now you're going way too far, and you're just saying, it's one thing to argue you're worried or concerned because it becomes this perception of us as just, we make it all mechanical. But that's the truth of it. It is all mechanical, all right? But you can't change the level of the argument. And that's what you just did there. I mean, that just isn't what's going on. No one's claiming. You just basically made a straw man argument. I mean, it's just not what the point is here. No one's arguing for that. We're arguing for the truth.
Like all the way down, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't occur at another level. Try to think of the old lady.
Well, occur at another level is just another way of saying you're going to level outside of reality. Okay, it doesn't occur at any other level in reality. It can only occur at another level in a false world that doesn't exist. Okay, in a world of want and hope and metaphor. Okay, yeah, that level exists. You want to use it as some sort of metaphor, some sort of sense or feeling. Well, okay, it exists on that level, but the level of sense and feeling is just about as unreliable a source of information as there can be, so we really can't take that seriously.
And the young girl, that visual gestalt that I think we've all seen, there's this little image.
Yeah, it's funny. He popped it up there, but I can't see the old lady this time, which is really funny. And that's the one I always see. I always see the old lady first, and I always go, ooh, creepy. Yeah, so it's just kind of funny. I mean, I see there's the dark hair of the girl, the face, da-da-da-da. So, I mean, I know the old lady is this is her smile here, and these are her old eyes. Yeah, okay, so there she's starting to show up. Oh, okay, here's her mouth. Here she is. Okay, that's her nose. Okay, so here she is. Here's her little cranky mouth and her little creepy chin, and she's got she's got quite a proboscis go, and then little eyeballs and cruddy and whatever this crap is. So there she is. A little cranky. I don't know what the little flu here is. I don't know what that is. Old ladies really don't got that kind of hair. And her forehead being black doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But whatever. The point is this is what's an illusion, right? It's just an illusion. The picture is neither. It's a picture. So the fact that you can shove two things into a picture, you can put a wolf inside of a scene of a ancient castle and a dragon, and you can have image on top of image underneath image, and it just doesn't mean that it's all of those things. It's it's a drawing, Professor. It's not a reality. Old women aren't young women. I mean, an old person can be young in heart, and a young person can be old of character, but they can't be old and young at the same time.
The fact that you can see those two different images from that one piece of energy matter shows you that the information is occurring at a different order of abstraction. It's a different level.
Well, abstraction, again, is another, call it what it is, fine. I mean, that's not a good word, okay? It's a perversion of reality. It isn't how reality comes. Reality doesn't work that way. You can't make reality do what the picture's doing.
And information is where that experience of agency choice lies. So, are we free?
Right.
Or
right. So basically, you're just saying that all this choice and power and will and all this crap that people are talking about belongs on a painting. It belongs in a drawing. It doesn't belong as part of a discussion of reality, because it doesn't exist in any form of reality. These are just nonsense concepts that really don't describe how we're functioning. We are controlled mechanisms, not controlling mechanisms. in the sense that, of course, we are controlling in the sense of our role in a chain of cause and effect. I mean, each effect creates a cause. Right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, each effect is in its nature a cause of some new effect. And that's the only way we are controlling anything, is that we're just part of something else that's controlling us.
Determined? That's a false question, because they're at different levels of analysis, they're dependent hierarchies, and we can be both determined and free.
Yeah, well, that's just, like I said, you just can't end with I mean, that's just such a non sequitur to end with. I mean, it's just, what do you do with that? No, it's a direct contradiction. The levels are not in the same dimensions of reality. You're outside the dimensions of reality, and there's just no point in philosophizing outside of reality. Let's deal with the reality of our circumstance and describe it as accurately as we can. And it's just not accurate to talk about the fact that there's free will is in any way, on any level, as a concept, even or equal to some notion of determinism. The determinism is a truth. The free will is an imagination. It's an illusion, at best. And at worst, it's just a complete pile of distracting bullshit. Yeah. So I believe I've done my job once again. So, thanks, Corey, for the video. I'll be polite about it, but yeah, this isn't going to work. We really got to speak the same language. Got to play by the same rules and such.